1 year ago, we witnessed one of the most epic tournaments in League history, as we went on to see 2 upsets in the finals, and it left us wondering if anything would ever top it. Well, here we are, 1 year later, with a chance to form new memories that are even more epic. The 2021 Summer Showdown tournament has a lot of familiar faces, including the arch-rival alexyOWL and Shanghai Dragons. Are they destined to meet each other in the finals yet again for a third consecutive time? Or will a new challenger rise up to the occasion? The Summer Showdown is a magical time of year, so maybe we're in for a good surprise or two. Let's talk about it with a preview of what's to come, and some predictions to build upon the hype. Kicking off Thursday night will be the Melee Round 1 rematch between the Chengdu Hunters and alexyOWL. On paper, it can be really easy to just go with Dallas without any sort of second thought, and it's totally understandable to feel that way, but this might not be a walk in the park, and it's not for a simple reason like last time either. The hit-scan questions, those have long been put to bed. However, we can't say the same about the Fuel's ability to succeed against somebody who knows what they're doing on Wrecking Ball compositions. The Chengdu Hunters have been far from perfect in the Summer Showdown, but they are dangerous on these fast-paced Wrecking Ball comps. Yeah, Dallas love to go fast, but it's not exactly easy to do it against a composition which can very easily nullify the effectiveness of their dive. We saw Shanghai make it work, so Chengdu definitely could too. Now obviously, the Shanghai Dragons are way more resilient and their ceiling is a bit higher, but if there's one thing the Hunters know how to do well, it's playing around these Wrecking Ball Sombra comps. It's their biggest comfort zone, really. It's kind of up to Dallas to learn from their previous mistakes. They gotta take what they learned in that Shanghai loss and put it to good use here. Dallas have a pretty good shot at victory due to their ability to make adaptations and their overall intelligence, but that's not the only reason why I still favor them despite the potential disadvantages. Unlike the Shanghai game from the June Joust, Dallas have more options at their disposal. Due to hero pools, they had limited choices on what to run during the June Joust, but now they have Rein, Sombra, and Tracer again, so they don't have to be fully committed to one specific comp. And that is the reason why I believe the alexyOWL will end up taking this series 3 maps to 1. They're the more flexible roster, not to mention they are more consistent overall. Chengdu definitely could pull off an upset here. I would not be surprised in the slightest if they did. Their playstyle is very tricky to handle, but more often than not, they in all likelihood lose. I'm favoring Dallas like 8 times out of 10 in a head-to-head. They should take care of business unless they truly come unprepared. Your other first round matchup on Thursday is yet another rematch when the Atlanta Reign try their hand at the Shanghai Dragons once again. Both of these teams have been outputting great performances that I truly do respect during the Summer Showdown so far. Atlanta have been incredibly strong on Rush, while Shanghai have established themselves as a top-tier Wrecking Ball Sombra team. It creates a very interesting dynamic when 2 very different playstyles go head-to-head. Kinda like with their Gladiators match last week, maps will play a huge role here if you're Atlanta. The key is to survive until map 5. If they can maybe win that first initial control map, then manage to steal one other map in between, then you're in great shape. The issue is, it's going to be way more difficult compared to a head-to-head with the Glads. We're talking about arguably the best team in the league here, the one who's also arguably the best at making mid-game adaptations nonetheless. This is a difficult matchup for the Atlanta Reign. They've shown they can hang in there with top teams after nearly taking down Dallas the other week, then they beat the Gladiators of course, but that was on their own terms I feel like, you know? They got to play a mirror match most of the time, which they're comfortable in. In all likelihood, they will not get that luxury against Shanghai, who present the same challenge to Atlanta as Chengdu does with Dallas. They play very different styles, their meta philosophy differs greatly. That brings a unique challenge when considering that the Shanghai Dragons are using arguably the best comp in the game right now. If you can play it well, it's very difficult to stop, and it just so happens that Shanghai kind of have it down to a science. Fate, Fleta, and Lip, they could be a huge problem. The Atlanta backline could be in for a rough day at the office. Heck, even Gator could get bullied if Lip can get some hacks off on him. I'll be honest, I don't love Atlanta's chances. Even the heavily favored rush maps that they may or may not choose might not go their way given the opponent they're up against here. The Dragons just look so good right now. Going against them this early on does not seem wise. The Dragons win the series in 4 maps. Their composition choice should really give the Reign trouble. Maybe the Reign could go bunker as a countermeasure, but then the Dragons could simply match them in the mirror. And when you think about it, the Dragons are just as good on that comp, if not even better. The Reign better have one heck of a game plan, or they're going down to the losers bracket. Okay, so if those predictions were to hold to be true, I don't think they will be because of my terrible luck, but if they did, Dallas would take on Shanghai in the winners finals, while Atlanta and Chengdu duke it out to avoid elimination. Starting with Dallas and Shanghai, I think it's safe to say that this one is kind of what we're all waiting for. This would be the 5th time they play each other despite playing in opposite regions. Pretty crazy, right? But they're here for a good reason. They're the kings of their respective regions. This rivalry is the best the league has to offer currently. Again, you really got to keep an eye on the different approaches we see composition-wise. Dallas love rush, but are also more than down to go Winston dive. That, in my opinion, gives them a better shot at defeating Shanghai than Atlanta. They have the better flexibility, not to mention that they like playing a very similar comp with the Tracer and Sombra. The challenge Dallas faces, though, is not being as well versed on Wrecking Ball and Zen. As we saw the last time these two met, Wrecking Ball can be a nightmare for the Winston comp to deal with, and when you add in Zenyatta, Shanghai has the ability to really up the tempo. Yeah, the Fuel like that style too, but the Dragons can kind of just go in and blow up targets even faster thanks to the Discord Orb, and you have to remember how fast Lip charges up PMPs. Doha is a very respectable Sombra player, but even he might have a difficult time matching Lip. My assumption is Dallas will have a pretty good game plan. Like I said earlier, they're not a team who won't take their past experiences seriously, and they have a really good coach to kind of just drill in what they need to do right. They are going to make adjustments. Maybe they'll even play certain heroes we aren't expecting them to. But can they be effective enough outside of their comfort zone? That's the real question. I would argue it's 50-50. Dallas have shown great versatility this season. Their coaching is so incredible, and I'm expecting them to push Shanghai pretty hard. But sadly, I don't think they'll have enough in the tank this go around. The Dragons look incredibly clean. They feel so confident. They feel determined. Nobody's really pushed them these last few weeks, but Dallas has gone through a few really tight games at the same time. I just have more confidence in the Dragons right now thanks to their consistency and strong composition choice. So yeah, I'm picking the Dragons over Dallas in, let's say, a 5-map affair. I think Dallas are going to surprise us. The thing is, though, I fear that having little time to prepare along with all of the traveling is going to have some negative effects on Dallas. I'm worried about them. Having little prep time against Shanghai in their current state sounds like a nightmare. Unless Lip ends up whiffing a ton of EMPs and the Dragons just choke big time, I'm expecting the Dragons to be in the driver's seat as they win the series. Looking into the idea of a potential Chengdu versus Atlanta game, this in my opinion could be the most evenly matched pairing, but also the most lopsided at the same time. On paper, they feel somewhat close to one another, at least roster-wise, and I think their different playstyles could push each other to their limits. But the thing is, if one team comes in a bit more prepared or one side makes some sort of game-changing adjustment, this could be a 3-0. It's a very weird thing, but I suppose that makes sense when considering that Chengdu is in the lobby. They make everything weird. They're the master of throwing everything off, and that's a concern for a team like the Reign in my opinion. I feel they're the type of team who can't easily adjust to something they're not used to. It's not to say they can't do it, but it's something to think about given their history under Coach Seffi. The cool thing is though, if you're the Reign, you could gain the same type of advantage over Chengdu given that the Hunters don't play against a ton of rush these days. This matchup is truly fascinating. It's a real battle of opposites. Who can get more value out of the things they stubbornly like to run? From what I've seen this year, that's the Atlanta Reign. Sure, you could argue that Chengdu have gotten the more impressive wins this stage, but they were all nail-biters that they by no means won convincingly. Plus, Atlanta are pushing better teams in my eyes. Nearly defeating Dallas the other week shows these guys mean business. That is why I am predicting a 3-2 Atlanta victory. My assumption is they drop the die-favored maps, but then win control and their map picks. This is the game I am definitely the least confident in. I would not be surprised in the slightest if it's not even close, or if Chengdu win for that matter. But Chengdu aren't somebody I find super trustworthy right now. Maybe that's a mistake to think that way, given they've been proving me wrong as of late, but I just don't have a good feeling about them in this tournament currently. Heading into my hypothetical losers finals, the Dallas Fuel would play the Atlanta Reign in a rematch that I pray we get to see at some point during this weekend, because their last game was so good. They truly felt like equals then, and I suspect that could play out yet again if they meet at some point within this tournament. They feel relatively even on rush comps from what we've seen so far, and if both sides fully invest in it, this could be a 50-50. When Dallas tried to run Winston last time, it did not work out for them. Atlanta completely walled them whenever they tried to use it. The cool thing going for Dallas though, again, it's a really big factor, it's the map selection. They did not have the luxury in the previous encounter of picking their maps, and I can't stress enough how big of a factor something like this can be. If Dallas can pick like Gibraltar and other maps with a ton of verticality that favor Winston and whatnot, they could make it work. This kind of format favors them. It can obviously be good for Atlanta as well though, but unlike their opponents, they seem pretty set on running rush like 90% of the time. With that in mind, I think the previous matchup serves as a better learning experience for Dallas, given that Atlanta are probably set on running one comp more often than not. I suspect this game could be very close, but I like the feel in a 5-map series in the end. Even if Atlanta pull a total 180 and they try like bunker, let's say, Dallas won't have a problem. Their pace of play is so fast. They showed it doesn't really bother them in the Houston match. While it would be cool to witness an upset here, I just don't see Dallas coming up short. Like in 2019 with the Shock and Titans rivalry, it feels like destiny that Shanghai and Dallas will continue to meet each other in tournament finals. Speaking of the tournament finals, let's talk about that. A potential third consecutive Shanghai-Dallas tournament finals could be just around the corner. You really gotta appreciate their abilities to keep putting themselves in a position to win tournaments. The competition this year is very fierce, but they have continued to soar above everybody else in the league. This rivalry has quickly become one of my all-time favorites, so if we see it again, you won't hear any complaints out of me. So, do I have Dallas coming back and getting the revenge? Well, while I definitely would not underestimate them, I don't see it happening here in the Summer Showdown because I firmly believe that Shanghai will be favored in a rematch even when Dallas has a bit more time to study and make adjustments. Dallas need more than a few days in my opinion. If they had a week and, just a bit more prep time and they weren't dealing with jet lag and whatnot, I'd be tempted to go with them. But as of right now, Shanghai just feel too strong. Everything feels so right when you watch them play. Fate has really hit his groove on that wrecking ball and everybody else has followed closely behind. In my opinion, this is the best the Dragons have looked all season. Everybody's performing so darn well. Not to mention that I kind of like the Shanghai DPS more if it comes down to Sombra Tracer. It's really close, but Lip and Fleta just seem more determined. Call it recency bias or whatever the heck you want to define it as, but the Dragons are the team to beat. I think we all have to admit that. In my opinion, they hold the advantage over Dallas stylistically, which is why I am picking the Shanghai Dragons to win the Summer Showdown Finals in 6 maps. Like I said before, the comp Shanghai is utilizing is difficult to beat when you know what you're doing, and I would say they know how to utilize it better than anybody else right now, so Dallas could be in big trouble. If we see this particular pairing in the finals, it should be a good time because on paper they are very evenly matched. We all know that, and it makes it even better that there's such an epic storyline to follow in this rivalry. There's a lot of pride on the line here, seeing as they're tied at 1 apiece in the finals. It's a pretty exciting game to keep track of. Their styles are similar, but also different because of the main tank choice, and I wonder if Dallas have it in them to find an answer to this wrecking ball issue. Can Rush and his guys cook up some sort of amazing plan to counter it? It would be epic to see the Fuel or even the Rain figure out this wrecking ball stuff and completely wall it. This NA versus APAC philosophy is very interesting. It's part of the reason I find these tournament matches so intriguing. Seeing teams who are so different clash results in a chess match of sorts, and that makes coaching more important than ever. Who's going to step up to the plate? As usual, it's only a matter of time until we find out. If last year tells us anything, good time should be ahead of us in the Summer Showdown. Anyway, that's gonna do it. That's my little preview and tournament bracket predictions for the Summer Showdown. If you're hyped for the tournament, do me a favor by hitting that like button and leaving a comment down below as it truly helps out the channel a ton. If you got any bold predictions, now's the time to let them fly. Let me know what you think. Let's keep the discussion going. And as always, I wanted to thank you all so much for watching this content. I really do appreciate your support. And until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.